Hello guys, here is your reviewer on rational exponents, radicals, and laws of radicals. For number 1, simplify negative 8 quantity raised to 2/3. Okay, so first, you have to express negative 8 into its equivalent exponential form, which is negative 8 initially is negative 2 times 4. But 4 is not yet a prime factor, so we have to express it again into smaller factors which are negative 2 times negative 2. So there are 3 negative 2's, which is the equivalent of 8. Therefore, negative 8 is equivalent to negative 2 cubed. But since it has 2/3 as its exponent, therefore negative 8 raised to 2/3 is equal to negative 2 raised to 3 raised to 2/3. And you can simplify it now using power of a power in your laws of exponents. So multiplying 3 with 2/3, you have negative 2 raised to 6 over 3. So what is 6 over 3? That is 2. And negative 2 squared is equivalent to negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. So the answer is positive 4, which is letter C. And for number 2, simplify z raised to negative 2/5 times z raised to 4/5. And as you can see, it is a multiplication of expressions with rational exponents. So when you multiply expressions with rational exponents, you just apply the laws of exponents that we have learned previously, the law of product. So since z raised to negative 2/5 is multiplied by z raised to positive 4/5, then you just have to add their respective exponents. So for the first z, its exponent is 2/5, plus for the second z, its exponent is 4/5. And you use or you apply the addition of fractions here. And since the denominators of the fraction or of the fractional exponents are similar, then no need to find the least common denominator. So you just have to copy the common denominator and do the operation on the numerators. In this case, you have to add negative 2 here and 4. So negative 2 plus 4, since they have opposite signs, then you have to subtract their absolute values. So you have 4 minus 2 is 2. So simplifying z raised to negative 2/5 times z raised to 4/5 is z raised to 2/5, which is in this case the answer is letter D. Okay, on number 3, rewrite the expression in radical form a raised to 4 fifth. So in rewriting an expression with rational exponents into radical form, remember that the denominator of the fractional exponent becomes the index of the radical, while the numerator of the fractional exponent, which is in this case 4, will become the exponent of the radicand. So a raised to 4/5 becomes fifth root of a to the fourth power. So the answer here is letter C. And for number 4, write in exponential form the cube root of quantity 3x squared. So notice that 3x is enclosed in parentheses, so the whole radicand 3x is raised to 2. So therefore, when you express the radical into exponential form, we have to enclose also the radicand 3x before we raise it into the equivalent exponent, which is in this case 2/3, because the numerator of the radicand here is 2, which becomes the exponent of the radicand in the radical form is 2, and it becomes the numerator, and the index is 3, which becomes the denominator of the exponential form. And here we are again in simplifying expressions with rational exponents. For number 5, simplify 27 raised to 2/3. Again, we have to express 27 into its exponential form, which is in this case 3 times 9 is 27, but 9 is 3 times 3. So 27 in exponential form will be 3 cubed. So since 27 in our question is raised to, or we do not need the parentheses anymore, 27 raised to 2/3, then it will be easier if we express it into its exponential form, which is 3 cubed raised to 2/3. Again, as we have done earlier, we apply the laws of exponent, or one of the laws of exponents, which is the law of power of a power. So we have 3 raised to 6 over 3, which is, simplifying further, we have 3 squared, because 6 divided by 3 is 2. So 3 squared, or 3 raised to 2, which is 9. So what is the letter of 9? It's letter D. And now for number 6, you simplify b raised to 1/3 over b raised to 5/3. So this bar here means division. So we apply the law of exponent, which involves the quotient. So when you divide a power by another power, and if they have the same bases, what will you do to the exponents? Remember that you are going to subtract exponents. So in this case, you have to subtract 1/3 by 5/3. So you have b raised to, since they have the same denominator, you do not need again to find the least common denominator. All you have to do is copy the common denominator and subtract the numerators. In this case, 1 minus 5. 1 minus 5 is -4. And since it has a negative exponent, To simplify it further, because this is not yet simplified because of the negative exponent, you have to find the reciprocal of the expression with the corresponding positive exponent. So it becomes 1 over b raised to 4 third, which is letter D. For number 7, simplify 5 and 1/2 times 5 and 2/3. So when you multiply expressions with rational exponents, you have to add the exponents by applying the law of exponents or the index laws. So you have 1/2 plus 2/3, and since these fractional exponents don't have similar denominators, then you have to transform them into similar fractions by identifying the least common denominator. Since 2 and 3 are the denominators, then the least common denominator is 6. And 1/2 is to be transformed into a new fraction where the denominator is 6. So you just have to divide 6 by 2, which is 3, times 1 here is 3, plus do the process again on 2/3. 6 divided by 3 is 2, times 2 here is 4. So 5 raised to 3 plus 4 is 7 over 6. And the answer is letter C. Okay, for number 8, simplify quantity 32 m to the 5th power raised to negative 1/5. Okay, to simplify it, you notice that the power outside the parentheses is negative. So we have to find the reciprocal of the quantity first with the corresponding positive exponent. So that will become 32, 1 over 32 m to the 5th power, or m raised to 5, quantity raised to 1/5. 1/5 is now positive. So since it is an application of product of power, and at the same time power of a power, you distribute the power outside the parentheses to every factor inside the parentheses. So it will become 32 raised to 1/5 by m raised to 5 times 1/5. And 32 can be expressed into its exponential form. So before we continue, let us express 32 first into its exponential form, which is by prime factorization. Initially, 32 is 2 times 16, and 16 is 2 times 8, and 8 is 2 times 4, and lastly 4 is 2 times 2. So how many 2's are there for 32? You have 5 2's. So therefore, 32 is 2 raised to 5. Of course, do not forget the rational exponent 1/5. And for m raised to 5 raised to 1/5. And since it is power of a power here, so you multiply 5 times 1/5. Well, it is as good as cancelling the numerator 5 and the denominator 5. So it will be 2 raised to 1, and m raised to, also cancel 5 over 5 here, raised to 1 for m. So 1 over, to simplify, 2 raised to 1 is as good as 2, m raised to 1 is just m. So 1 over 2m. And where is that? That is letter C. And for number 9, simplify 16 raised to negative 3/4. Since the exponent is negative, then you have to transform it into its reciprocal with the corresponding positive exponent. So 1 over 16 raised to positive 3/4. Now, since you cannot simplify this expression unless you have to transform 16 into a rational or an expression or an exponential form. So 2 is, or 16 is 2 times 8, but 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So how many 2's are there for 16? There are 4 2's. So that's 2 raised to 4 raised to 3/4. So 1 over 2 raised to 4 quantity raised to 3/4. And to simplify it, then you just have to cancel the common numerator and denominator, which is 4. So you have 1 over 2 raised to 3, or 2 raised to 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 1 over 8 is the simplified form of the expression 16 raised to negative 3/4. For number 10, simplify 7 m raised to 2/3 times m raised to 5/3. So 7 is the only numerical coefficient. It doesn't have any other numerical coefficient, but m should be multiplied to m raised to 2/3 should be multiplied to m raised to 5/3. Since they have the same basis, they are both m, so you just have to add their fractional exponents, 2/3 and 5/3 here. So adding these fractions will ask you to identify the least common denominator. But in this case, since they have similar denominators, which is 3, you don't have to find the least common denominator anymore, and you just have to add the numerators. In this case, 2 plus 5. So 7, here 7 over 3. So the final answer is 7m raised to 7 over 3, which is letter C. Number 11, write m raised to 1/2 in radical form. So remember that in converting exponential expression with rational exponent into radical form, the denominator becomes the index of the exponent or index of the radical, while the numerator will become the exponent of the radicand. So this is the equivalent radical form of m raised to 1/2, the square root of m raised to 1. But since you know that if the index is 2, you don't have to write 2 anymore. It's just a simple radical sign like this. And if the exponent is 1, again, you don't have to write 1 anymore. So that is square root of m, which is letter D. For number 12, write in exponential form cube root of quantity 7m squared. So to write it in exponential form, then just write the radical, or the radicand I should say, and get the exponent to become the numerator of the fractional exponent,
and the index, which is 3, will become the denominator of the fractional exponent. And which of the choices match our answer? That's letter B. For number 13, simplify x raised to 1/4 divided by x raised to 1/2. So when you divide expressions with the specified exponents, but they have the same basis, again, you apply the law of quotient in the laws of exponents. So you have to subtract 1/4 by 1/2. And since the fractional exponents don't have similar fractions, they are namely similar denominators, I should say, 4 and 2 are the denominators, then you have to identify the LCD first. In this case, if the denominator are 4 and 2, then the new denominator, the least common denominator is 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, times 1 is still 1. Minus, because the operation here is minus, 4 divided by 2 is 2, times 1 is 2. So you have x raised to 1 minus 2, 1 minus 2 in the numerator, so that's negative 1 over 4. And since the exponent is negative, you have to transform it into positive 1, and you find the reciprocal of the expression, so it's 1 over x with a positive exponent, x raised to 1/4. 1 over x raised to 1/4, which is letter D. And for number 14, simplify cube root of 27 n raised to 6. So to simplify this, 27 n raised to 6, you have to transform the radical into exponential form, then reduce the fractional exponent into a fractional or into its lowest term. So since it's a cube root, then the fractional exponent of the whole expression is 1/3. And you distribute 1/3 to every factor inside the parentheses. That's 27 raised to 1/3 and n raised to 6 raised to 1/3. But 27 should be expressed into its fractional or into its exponential form. In this case, it's 9 times 3, but 9 is 3 times 3. So there are 3 threes for 27. Therefore, 27 is 3 raised to 3 times quantity raised to 1/3, and n raised to 6 raised to 1/3. Of course, you can cancel 6 divided by 3, or you can divide 6 by 3, which is 2. So 2 times 1 for the numerators is 2. And here, for 3 raised to 3 raised to 1/3, you can also cancel out 3 and 3 because they divide each other. So, or they cancel each other, I should say. So 3 raised to 1 and n raised to 2, or as simple as 3 raised to 1 is just 3 and n squared. So 3n squared, which is letter D. And for number 15, as you notice, 16 is nested under two radicals, square root of 16. So to simplify it, first you have to express it into exponential form. So 16 raised to 1/2 raised to another 1/2, or that's 16 raised to 1/4, because you have to multiply the power 1/2 with another power 1/2, so 1/4. And of course, you have to transform 16 again into exponential form. 16 to be broken down into its smaller prime factors. So initially, it's 2 times 8, but 8 is 2 times 4, but 4 is 2 times 2. So that's 4 twos. So that's 2 raised to 4. And 2 raised to 4 is 16 raised to 1 fourth. So again, applying power of a power of the laws of exponents. So 4 times 1 fourth is 1. So you have 2 times 1, or simply 2. So which of our options matches our final answer? It's letter D. And number 16, simplify fourth root of 32m raised to 11 divided by fourth root of 2m cubed. So if they have the same index or indices, if the two radicals involved in the quotient or division have the same indices, then you can just nest them inside the radical as a whole. So it will become uh, fourth root of 32 m raised to 11 over 2 m raised to 3. Then apply division of the numerator and the denominator. So that is fourth root again of 32 divided by 2 is 16, while m raised to 11 divided by m cubed, since they have specified exponents, then you have to subtract their exponents. So 11 minus 3. So you have fourth root of 16 raised to times m raised to 11 minus 3 from here is 8. And so, before we can totally simplify, we have to express 16 again into exponential form. But we have encountered it earlier in our discussion. And you know that 16 is just 2 raised to 4 raised to times m raised to 8. Okay. So we are now ready to put 4 as our index as our fractional exponent. So transform fourth root into an expression with fractional exponent, so it's equivalent to 1/4. Then apply power of a power, and at the same time power of a product. So you have 2 raised to 4 raised to 1/4. So 2 raised to 4 raised to 1/4. And for m raised to 8 raised to 1/4. Continuing, you can cancel 4 here over 4. So it is as good as 1. While 8 over 4 can also be cancelled. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. So you have 2 times 1 for the numerator or for the exponent of m. So that is 2. And you cannot, you can, or you may not write 1 anymore for the exponent of 2. So 2m squared is the final answer. Where is that? You have it at letter A. And for number 17, what is cube root of 64x raised to 6 and y raised to 12 equal to? So first, you have to transform 64 into exponential form. But again, 64 is 2 times 32, while 32 is 2 times 16, and 16 is 2 times 8, and 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So how many prime factors of 2 are there? There are 6 2's, so therefore it's 2 raised to 6. And going back to our radical, to simplify, cube root of 64 x raised to 6 y raised to 12, then take 64 as 2 raised to 6 now, and it's cube root, and x raised to 6 and y raised to 12. Then transform the whole radical into its exponential form. So you have 2 raised to 6, x raised to 6, y raised to 12. Cube root means 1/3 in exponent. So applying power of a power here to every factor inside the parentheses, you have 2 raised to 6 times 1/3, and x raised to 6 times raised to 1/3 again, and y raised to 12 raised to 1/3. So you can cancel 6 over 3. So you have 2 raised to 2, because 6 divided by 3 is 2. 2 times 1 for the numerator of 1/3 is still 2. So x raised to, again, 6 times 1/3 is 2, and y raised to 12 times 1/3 is 12 divided by 4. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So this is 4. And this part, 2 squared, should be simplified as 4. X, copy, y raised to 4, also just copy it. So the final answer is 4x squared y to the 4th power, which is, in this case, that's letter A. Next, cube root of 625 divided by cube root of 5. Again, since they have the same index, you can just nest them inside a common radical and with the common index. Cube root of 625 over 5. But 625 divided by 5 is 125. And you simplify it by, of course, transforming again 125 into exponential form. You know that 125 is 5 times 25. And 25 can be also expressed as 5 times 5. So therefore, 125 is 5 raised to, this one, 5 raised to 3. And again, cube root is transformable into a fractional exponent, which is 1/3. And canceling the numerator 3 in the denominator 3, you got 5 raised to 1, or simply 5. So the answer here is letter C. And now for number 19, evaluate 121 c raised to 4 raised to, or quantity raised to 1/2. So 121 c raised to 4 quantity raised to 1/2 Applying power of a product, so you distribute the exponent 1/2 to every factor inside the parentheses. So that's 121 raised to 1/2 raised to 4 times 1/2. And let us see if 1/2 can be expressed as an exponential exponential. So 121 is 11 times 11. Therefore, it's 11 squared raised to 1/2. And C raised to 4 raised to 1/2, applying power of a power. So you multiply the powers. 4 times 1/2 is 2. So C is squared. And again, for 11 squared times 1/2, you cancel the numerator 2 and the denominator 2. So that is 1 or 11 raised to 1 C squared. But 11 raised to 1 is as good as just 11 and C squared. So 11C squared is the answer, which is letter C. Okay? On number 20, simplify cube root of x times square root of x cubed all over 16 or square root of 16x. Square root of 16x. Now, as you can see, the expression here is cube root of x, while the expression here is square root of x. So they don't have the same index. Now, to simplify them, first you have to transform cube root of x into its exponential form, so that x raised to 1/3, while square root of x cubed can be transformed into x cubed raised to 1/2. So 1/2 is the equivalent of square root into exponential form. And for the denominator, square root of 16 can be simplified as 4, because if you multiply 4 by 4, then the answer is 16. So the answer is, or the square root of 16 is 4. So the only remaining radicand inside is x. This one from here, x. Now, simplify again the numerator by continuing the process. Since x cubed times 1/2 should be multiplied, so that's 3 over 2, or 3/2. And in the denominator, that's 4 times x raised, the equivalent of the square root again is 1/2 exponent. So x raised to 1/2. Now, since we have to deal with the excess, so on the numerator, it's a multiplication of the bases with the specified exponents. So you have to add the exponents. 1/3 plus 3/2. And in the denominator, you have to divide this x raised to 1/3 times x raised to 3/2 by x raised to 1/2 in the denominator. So you have to subtract the exponent. And what remained in the denominator of the expression is 4. From here, 4. Now, 3, 2, and 2 are the denominators of the fractional exponents. So that you can do the operation on them, you have to identify or find the least common denominator involving 3, 2, and 2. So in this case, the LCD or the least common denominator is 6. Now, transform 1/3 into a new fraction where the denominator is now 6. So 6 divided by 3 is 2 times 1 is 2. Then plus 6 again divided by 2. From here, 2 is 3 times 3 is 9. And minus 6 divided by 2 is 3 times 1 is still 3. All over 4. And continuing, x raised to, you can now add the numerators of the fractional exponents. Add or subtract. 2 plus 9 is 11 minus 3 is 8. So 8 over 6 over or all over 4 equals. Then reduce 8 over 6 into its lowest term. Since the numerator 8 and the denominator 6 can be divided by their greatest common factor, which is 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 6 divided by 2 is 3, all over 4. So this is the simplified form, which is letter C.